In the sacred rituals of Hindu marriages, Sindur, a vibrant red vermilion powder, is gently applied by a husband along the parting of his wife's hair. This simple act is more than tradition. It's a declaration. It's a silent vow that she is chosen, she's cherished, and that she is not alone anymore. That her life is now intertwined with his, through fire, through ashes, through lifetimes. This fine red line, it's not just a color, it's identity, it's protection, and it means forever. But what happened when that sacred mark of unity becomes a target? You know, the story of Sindur begins not in the modern temples or wedding halls, but it's buried deep beneath the earth, in the ruins of the Hindu Valley civilization. Over 5,000 years ago, archaeologists found figurines of women with a line of red pigments streaking their parted hair. Even then, before borders, before religion split, before the world knew war, as we do today, women wore this mark not for beauty, not for vanity, but to say, I belong to someone, I'm protected, I'm a wife. In ancient Hindu scriptures, goddess like Parvati, which is the example of marital devotion, are said to have worn sindur for the longevity of their husbands. And so the tradition endured from royal brides to village women, from ancient texts to Hollywood screens. And personally, that's where I know sindur from. From the hands of trembling grooms in a small town weddings to high-profile political ceremonies, sindur remained untouched by time until April 22, 2025. In India, that symbol of unity becomes a mark of loss. On that day, in the serene meadows of Pahalgam, Kashmir, this symbol took a tragic new meaning. A group of men launched a brutal attack targeting Hindu tourists. They separated men from women, asking them to declare their own religion. Those who identified as Hindu were executed in front of their loved ones. Among the 26 victims were newlyweds, fathers, sons, men whose lives were cut short in an act of terror. One of the victims, Lieutenant Vinay Narwal, had been married just 6 days prior. He and his wife were on their honeymoon when he was killed. Another victim was a local Muslim pony ride operator, Saeed Adil Hussain Shah, who was killed while trying to protect the Hindu tourists. In the aftermath, the Indian government launched Operation Sindoor, a military response named after the very symbol that now represented both love and loss. Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel everyone. If you're new here, I'm so glad you're joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to help us grow the channel and keep bringing you those important stories. For those of you who've been here, I'm very sorry for being gone this long. I myself was dealing with a loss that left me a little bit frozen. So if you missed me, I'm glad to be back. But if you are mad, please don't be mad, because grieving a loss can be very challenging. Even maybe this is the first time we are going to talk about the conflict between Pakistan and India out of the context of movie vlogs. But before we dive into it, I want to let you know that this episode may contain graphic details that may be upsetting to some viewers. So if you're not feeling up to it, and especially for the communities that are concerned by this, we completely understand. Your mental health comes first. So take a break, relax, take care of yourself, and come back when you're ready. We'll still be here. They say if Kashmir is heaven on earth, then Pahalgam must be its heart. It is a small town, Jammu in Kashmir, in a region called Anantnag. But it doesn't feel small at all. It feels like, the world stopped there trying to impress everybody and just decided to be so damn beautiful. The trees whisper when the wind moves through them. Rivers are sparkling like it's carrying little piece of the sky, and the snowy mountains, they don't just stand tall, they protect the land like a mother watching over her kids. Pahalgam means the valley of shepherd. That you understand why I describe it with this much of beauty. It's just that big open field, shepherds with their sheep, soft grass, wildflowers, and a hush, like a word letting out a slow breath. People don't come here for 5-star hotels or big shopping streets or any sort of luxury. They come for something else, something very precious. They come for peace, the kind of peace that makes you sit still and close your eyes and connect with yourself and with nature. So families come to escape the chaos of the city. Couples hold hands near the rivers. And every year, thousands of people come here to start their Amarnath Yatra, which is a holy journey, one of the most important pilgrimage in Hinduism. In summer, the valley turns gold under the sun. In winter, it becomes a snow globe, white, silent, magical. Even the rivers there turns icy blue and clear like glass moving over stone. Pahalgam is soft, sacred. It's where the world feels gentle again. But beneath all its postcards perfection lies a tragic irony. Because the same place known for serenity, faith, unity, it's become the site of unspeakable violence. And that's where the story begins. But before getting into what happened, let's have a brief reminder of the Pakistan-India conflict. It all began in 1947 when British India was divided into two countries, India and Pakistan, based on religious lines. We all know that. The main issue has been the dispute region of Kashmir, which both countries claim. Over the years, the conflict has led to wars, military standoffs, and ongoing tension, with both nations possessing nuclear weapons. Let's not forget about that. While Bollywood movies may portray aspects of this, the real conflict involves deep territorial, religious, and political disputes, particularly affecting the people of Kashmir. Saeed Adil Hussain Shah, a name that never resonates with a soldier. He wasn't in his uniform, he didn't carry not even a gun, but that day he was the warrior and the shield of humanity. Adil lived in the hills of Pahalgam. It was his home. He was a pony operator, someone who helped visitors ride through the mountains safely. Everyone in town knew him. Gentle, he was quiet, he was the kind of man who offered you tea before asking your name. Every morning, before the sun hits the valley, he eats his own breakfast, he makes sure his ponies are fed and well to work. That's the kind of compassionate man he was. He didn't make much, that's to be honest about it. He just loved his job. He made just enough to feed his family, maybe sometimes buy his daughter a small gift from the city once a month. But he loved what he did. It was not about money. On April 22, 2025, he did what he always do. He guided a group of tourists, couple families, newlyweds, up the hills of Baisaran Valley. The air was cool, fresh. There were wildflowers blooming along the path. It should have been a beautiful, ordinary day. But it wasn't, because hidden in the trees were men dressed like soldiers. Hidden. That's how cowards they are. They weren't from any army. They were militant, carrying guns and wearing fake uniforms. When the shooting started, people thought it was fireworks. And weirdly, this is always what people think in the beginning. Then they start seeing the blood. So tourists start screaming, some tried to run, mothers threw themselves over their children. But it was Adil who stepped forward. He apparently begged them to stop. He told them they are just visitors, they are not part of this. He used his body as a shield to block the line of fire. But the attackers didn't care, because they don't care about humans. They started asking questions, not about where people came from, about what they believed in. They made the men recite Islamic verses, check their names, their wallet, their accent, and one by one, those who didn't pass their tests were executed. They were executed right there in the open field of Pahalgam, next to the ponies, next to the children, next to the men who had tried to protect them. Adil was shot and killed, not because he was a target, because he was not a Hindu. He was able to recite Islamic verses, but because he stood in the way. So in total, 26 people died that day. 25 of them were tourists and the 26th one was Adil. Now you might have wondered, why did I choose his story? While there are others who has suffered same fates. But I did it because I wanted to send a message. I wanted to tell you, and I know I have a lots of Hindu followers. I wanted to tell you that extremists are a danger for everyone, including Muslims, because Islam is about peace, is about touching hearts with God's word and not ending lives in His name. Islam is about education, respect, and cohabitation. As God says in Surah Al-Hujurat,
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Translation: O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you people and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted. This verse highlights clearly the unity and respect that we must have between different communities, emphasizing that diversity exists to promote mutual understanding, respect, and love. And there is so many verses that forbid human from killing people, from killing another human based on their religion. So I am very careful using the words because today they have lost their meaning in the media that brainwash people's minds and blind their hearts. So let's just go back to the basics and allow me to remind you that terrorism is a political and violent act, not a religious practice. So I feel bad when the word seems to call it terrorism when it comes to Islam. Islam, like all religions, teaches peace, compassion, and respect for human life. Acts of terrorism carried out by extremists do not represent the core teaching of Islam. The actions of these individuals are a distortion of religious principles, and many Muslim scholars and leaders worldwide consistently denounce terrorism in all its forms. And moreover, lots of Muslim countries have suffered their part, including my own country and many of Muslim countries. We were badly struck many times, yet we are Muslim countries. It is crucial to separate religion from the actions of a few individuals and recognize that extremism can emerge from any ideology and not just religious beliefs. And as a Muslim, I believe it's important to acknowledge that Islam and Hinduism are based on different principles and beliefs. However, these differences doesn't mean we should hate or harm each other. It is the responsibility of every community to educate itself, to foster understanding, and to avoid planting seeds of hatred in people's hearts. We cannot wait for leaders to guide us also, because politics often shifts the focus away from the real issue. It's up to each one of us to build bridges and not walls. The next morning, 26 homes went silent in their grief. Almost all the victims were men, husbands, fathers, and son. This is really, really, really vicious. But in retaliation, India launched Operation Sindoor. India said it was targeting the camps that trained these men. Camps in Pakistan administered Kashmir. 23 minutes of precision and consequences. The night was clearly very calm until it wasn't anymore. On May 7, 2025, 2 a.m. and a half in the morning, in just 23 minutes, that's what it takes India to launch a cover military operation that would echo across borders. They called it Operation Sindoor, of course, named after the red mark symbolizing both commitment and sacrifice. This wasn't a war, it was a calculated response, fast, focused, and very fierce, and no one can blame them. 9 sites across regions of Pakistan and Pakistan administered Kashmir were hit. Locations like Bahawalpur, Muzaffarabad, Bhimber, Muridki, Kotli, Sialkot, Gulpur, Chak Amru, and Bad, all identified by Indian intelligence as strategic hubs allegedly linked to militant activity. The strikes were anything but random. Rafale's fighter jets flew low and fast, armed with scoped cruise missile and ASM hammer bomb. Suicide drones followed, but the unexpected twist that India has deployed Akash missile system, which is traditionally used for air defense, and adapted them for precision ground strikes. It was a first, and it caught everyone off guard. The entire operation was guided by real-time satellite intel from ISRO. Every target has been monitored, verified, and cross-checked to minimize collateral damage. India states clearly this was a strategic operation with 0 civilian casualties. The objective? Targets infrastructures, not innocent life. And for 23 minutes that objective held, but the silence didn't last, because in response, Pakistan launched retaliatory shelling along the line of control, a heavily militarized and tense border region. This is where the toll shifted. Towns like Punch were hit, civilians' homes were damaged, families crumbled into shelters, hospitals filled quickly with injured, people who had nothing to do with the initial operation now suffering from the consequences of escalating conflicts. So here's the reality. Operation Sindoor, according to Indian sources, did not harm civilian directly. But the retaliation that followed brought pain to people on the ground. People caught between power, politics, and borders. The military mission may have ended in 23 minutes, but the effects didn't stop there. People were left with fear, confusion, and sadness on both sides. Families close to the border are still hoping for peace and stability, which is normal. But there is also something changing. This is the new generation that is growing up now, and they don't want war, they want peace. They're choosing friendship, they're choosing respect, they're choosing cohabitation, they're choosing understanding and love. They are talking about education, respect, coexistence, where your religion doesn't threaten mine and my belief don't silence yours. Where we can live next to each other, not just tolerate each other, but learn from one another. Because it's not a war that builds a future. It's empathy, tolerance, and quite courage to say, we are different. And that's exactly why we need each other. Because we are different. We need each other to complete each other, to understand each other. When a woman's husband dies, one of the most painful rituals she must endure is the removal of her sindoor. Traditionally, the Sindur is wiped away. It's a symbolic gesture that marks the end of her marital bond. Hair shifts in stature from Sumangali, which means a married woman, to a widow, often isolating her socially and spiritually in Orthodox communities. So let's just all strive to create a world where kindness, respect, and understanding replace the bitterness and hatred that often leads to such tragic events. Stay safe, protect each other, and always choose compassion. And with that being said, this episode ends here. But before I go, I'd like to ask you for your support for my animal welfare initiative. I truly believe that building a kinder world starts with teaching compassion towards animals, the planet, and towards each other. If this resonates with you, I'll be so grateful if you could check out the donation link in the description. Every little bit helps us rescue and care for animals in need all over the globe. So thank you for helping make a difference. What do you think about these conflicts, guys? This has been going for years now, decades. Should military actions ever be the answer, or is peace the only way to go forward? Let us know in the comments, and please be respectful and tell us what story you want us to break down next. Thank you for watching, and take care of yourself. Bye.